The Battle for Bikini Bottom has had an interesting life. Coming out in 2003, the game would garner decent acclaim and sold really well, as licensed games are wont to do. But 13 years later, this game leapt back onto the internet, becoming a cult classic amongst speedrunners all around the world. This popularity would soon justify a remastered version of the licensed game. But it brings up the question, too much polish on a game be a bad thing? Well, I'll answer that today when I complete Spongebob Squarepants, Battle for Bikini Bottom.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist, where we don't just beat the games, we complete them. And if you want to support the show, you can head over to thecompletionist.com and buy some merchandise, or show up on Twitch when I stream, which is all the time. Recently, we released a video about our top 10 licensed games, and the most common, I don't want to say complaint, but comment I saw was, why didn't you put Battle for Bikini Bottom on this list? And the simple answer is, I have never completed, let alone played the game. I own it right behind me, and I love Spongebob Squarepants. And since they're releasing it, or rather they just released the remastered version, Rehydrated, only a couple of days ago, now is the perfect time as any to give it a true, honest shot. So with that said, let's get to our lovely intro.
Who films in an office in Southern CA? Is jovial, left-bearded, and loves to play games. You want to know which game to complete? Then sit on down, you're in for a treat. Ready? Completionist.
SpongeBob Squarepants is one of the most iconic cartoons of our time. If you threw a bunch of people my age or younger into a room and mentioned SpongeBob, we could spew quotes out of our mouths for hours. I love this little yellow guy and everyone else that comes with him. Needless to say, when something gets to be this popular, there are going to be video games about it. So, Nickelodeon churned out a ton of SpongeBob Squarepants video games, varying in quality. But one game stood out amongst the rest: SpongeBob Squarepants Battle for Bikini Bottom. While it was popular for its time, Battle for Bikini Bottom didn't reach its full popularity for 13 years. In 2016, this game gained underground notoriety with the speedrunning community. The game got so popular that it got admitted into Awesome Games Done Quick in 2017 and garnered over 100,000 views online. This resurgence is something that I don't think has been seen in a lot of old games like this, let alone a licensed game from a time period known for terrible licensed games. This strange popularity led to THQ Nordic and Purple Lamp Studios announcing that they were actually going to remake Battle for Bikini Bottom with better graphics, a formally cut multiplayer mode, and involvement from the people who speedrun the game. A developer remaking a licensed game from the early 2000s just because people liked it? That never happens. It was so genuinely heartwarming to see that a game was plucked from obscurity because of a group of truly dedicated fans. This just goes to show what you can do if you truly love something. Battle for Bikini Bottom starts off with SpongeBob and Patrick playing robots and racehorses while wishing they could play with actual robots. Little did they know that Plankton has been building robots to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula. However, he forgot to set the switch to obey, and the robots are running amok all over Bikini Bottom. It's now up to SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy to defeat all these robots and bring peace back to their home. The plot is simple, it's silly, and perfect for SpongeBob. It immediately got me in the mood for this game, despite a crazy graphical glitch with Patrick right here. Also, I'm a huge fan of 3D collectathon platformers. This game should be right up my alley. However, full disclosure, I have never played the original game, so I'm worried that I might get something wrong in comparing the two, especially since the fan base is very strong for the original. Fortunately, our writer on this episode played the original all the time as a kid and will be by my side to fact check everything I say to make sure I get it right. Are you ready, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Perfect, let's dive right in. One of the best parts of playing a remastered game is getting to see everything from your childhood all polished up and given a new life. This has been successfully done with Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and Medieval. And for the most part, this works for Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, but it almost feels as if this game is too polished. I know it sounds weird, but hear me out. Take, for example, the graphics. The character animations look amazing. The amount of detail and expression put into the entire cast of SpongeBob is delightful, especially when combined with the incredible voice acting. Seriously, the cast of SpongeBob Squarepants is one of the best voice acting casts of all time, and they really delivered here, except for Mr. Krabs and Mermaid Man. The person they got was a bit lacking.
That monster has been stinging all my good customers in their poop decks.
But Purple Lamp Studios is using the recordings from the original game, so it's not really their fault. Back then, it was a licensed game that was rushed out pretty quickly, and they may not have had the time or money to get Clancy Brown or Ernest Borgnine, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But overall, this works. The game is actually funny and feels like an episode of SpongeBob Squarepants. The music sounds like SpongeBob Squarepants. It's all great. The game looks so much more vibrant and colorful than the original, which is awesome for a SpongeBob game. But there's something about all of that that just feels off. So for a while, I couldn't put my finger on it. I liked the way it looked. The kelp trees were nice, and each level looks really distinct from every other level. Then I looked at footage of the older game, and while the character animations looked worse and the environments looked more patchy and blocky, it had a lot more character to it all. I could see why this game stood out from other licensed games at the time. It had a distinct personality. Battle for Bikini Bottom had all of its personality kind of polished off to make a nice, smooth, round game. It almost feels like the Stepford Wives. All beauty but no substance. And it definitely feels that way in this game. Take, for example, the opening section in SpongeBob's house. In the original, things were destroyed and broken on the ground. There was even a crater. In Rehydrated, everything is just tilted. Doesn't even feel like the evil robots attacked his home. Even the threatening graffiti isn't as threatening. The menus are like this too. If you look at the main menu of the original Battle for Bikini Bottom, there's a cool army helmet and a bunch of different colors. The main menu for Rehydrated just looks bland and safe, almost like a bathroom in a hotel by the beach. Would you agree, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Thank you. And none of this hides a bunch of graphical glitches. I first noticed this in the opening cutscene, but these happened a lot throughout the entire game, especially in the kelp forest. Fortunately, Purple Lamp Studios announced a day one patch that should fix most of these issues, but I don't think that'll fix my main issue with everything feeling too polished. And this can be felt in the gameplay as well. You have 3 playable characters, SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy, each of them controlled differently, with SpongeBob being the main and most versatile of the 3. He can ground pound and do a type of uppercut while eventually learning some cool bubble projectiles. Patrick is strong and can throw items, while Sandy can glide and do cool combat maneuvers with her lasso. You run around with them and collect golden spatulas, Patrick's lost socks, and shiny objects, which are honestly a lot less shiny than they were in the original. However, the only ones that really matter are the golden spatulas, as that's what's really needed for completion in this game. While I preferred to play as Sandy, none of them really stood out to me as particularly interesting. The platforming was kind of floaty, and the combat was simple. It was standard for a quick license cash-in, but I wanted to see what all the hype was about, so I watched some speedruns. And these speedruns were fascinating to watch. You see, since licensed games are rushed out fairly quickly, there are a ton of glitches you can use to move quicker through the game, and they seem really cool to pull off. I was reminded of when I played the original Ratchet & Clank and got to exploit that bolt glitch. I thought I would get to do some of that in this game as well. Now, there is a part of the game where you have to grind for shiny objects in order to get the last few golden spatulas and pay to see a bunch of still images in a movie theater. I thought I could use a glitch in the Goo Lagoon level where you could block up a skee ball hole and use it to give you infinite shiny objects. Unfortunately, Purple Lamp Studios prevented this by putting an invisible wall in the way of the skee ball holes. So I had to find another way to grind, and it was so much fun. I don't know if you understood that, but that was sarcasm. They literally took away some of the original things that gave the original game its identity and made it as popular as it is today. If you're doing a remaster, why only change things that people loved? I can best sum this whole game up by comparing the first 3 seasons of SpongeBob Squarepants to the rest of them. The first seasons may be a little uglier, but they have a distinct personality that makes them stand out from any other cartoon of that era. The rest of the seasons are still SpongeBob, but they're just polished to the point where something just kind of feels off. Now, I really hope that the patch will fix a lot of my issues with this game. However, I know the patch won't fix how I feel about the multiplayer mode. So one of the things that Purple Lamp Studios promised was a previously cut multiplayer mode that allowed 2 players to take part in horde battles and even go up against a Robo Squidward. That could be really cool. The design for Robo Squidward is pretty intimidating, and I would love to have a good reason to experience this game with friends. If Purple Lamp Studios really fleshed out a cut aspect of the previous game, that's fantastic. All developers who are resurrecting old titles should do something like that. Some fun multiplayer is always a welcome addition to any game as long as it was thought about. Unfortunately, this time it wasn't. In fact, it may be one of the worst multiplayer modes, let alone things I've played all year. It starts out pretty promising. Instead of just the usual 3-player characters, you can choose 7, including Gary. Oh, I love Gary. A bunch of different characters that all play differently? Yes. Nice touch, Purple Lamp, I'm in. Then, you start with a short cutscene of Robo Squidward being all scary and robotic, and then it just jump cuts with no warning, no explanation whatsoever. And this is where the trouble starts. You start in a world that seems empty. There is barely any music playing, just this kind of faint grumblings of drama deep below everything else. Then, without any explanation whatsoever, you learn that all you can do is attack, jump, and ground pound. Okay, so maybe this is just limited to a character issue, right? Jeremy and I were playing as Squidward and Gary. Maybe this is just because they're the new characters? Not the case. We played later as Sandy and Patrick, and all of their extra abilities are flat out gone. All their controls were simplified from their already pretty simple controls. Now, none of the characters feel that unique or interesting, except for Squidward and Roboplankton, who have insanely strong ranged attacks. In fact, Squidward attacks with his clarinet, shooting 3 flat notes in succession of each other. So essentially, with no score backing all of this up, we were essentially hearing the same 3 flat notes while we battled gauntlets of weird enemies. And they weren't even that hard. Sure, more enemies kept coming, but there was no punishment if you died. You just came back to life in a couple of seconds to repeat that wave. The only punishment was that every time you died, you have to hear a strange heart monitor beeping and then flatline, which is really freaking morbid for a children's game, my dudes. Playing casually, this mode can last for around 45 minutes with no break and nothing else to interact with besides hitting enemies. What happens at the end of all this? Nothing. It just takes you back to the same bland menu and asks if you want to return to the main menu or back to character selection. Either way, no thank you. Now look, this, for lack of a better term, as nice as I can put it. You all know me. I'm trying to be the nice guy out there all the time when I talk about games that I love. This was genuinely awful. It was bad. It felt like no effort was put into this mode whatsoever, and it was unnecessarily tacked on that I am confused as to why it was added in the first place. I mean, I have an idea, right? Like added value, but no one asked for this. And in my eyes, it brings down the entire product for even just being here, right, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy, as enthusiastic as always. So, you've collected all 100 golden spatulas. What do you get for your hard work? Well, not much. In the original game, you got to watch a video with the entire cast of the game singing the theme song of the TV show. While this isn't a major revolution or anything, it is a lot of fun to watch and it's a cool addition for everything you get in the game, where it's not too hard to do everything in. But in my particular case, I didn't get to see that in this remake. Why, do I hear you ask? It's because this game seems to think that I've only gotten 99 golden spatulas regardless of me having all 100. The level maps say that I have all the golden spatulas. Even the game says I have 100 golden spatulas after the day 1 patch. Why doesn't the game think I've completed it? And worst of all, I didn't get the achievement for this either at the time. So I had to wait until the day 1 patch came to see what exactly I was missing, since I couldn't fully see the achievements until the game officially released. Once it did, I saw that one of the spatula in SpongeBob's dream was still missing, even though I already collected all of them. I immediately found it and finally got all the achievements. However, I still can't see this secret ending because I beat the final boss with less than 100 golden spatulas. Now look, I wanted to like this game more than I did. Really, I mean it. I mean, it's Spongebob Squarepants, and so many people have told me over the years that it's one of the best licensed games of all time. But honestly, it just felt like a regular 3D platformer with no extra bells or whistles attached to it. Not to mention all the weird graphical glitches and that weird multiplayer mode. Maybe the original game was different. but I just don't see it in the present product that I played today. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah.
When I completed Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, there were 30 deaths, 100 golden spatulas found despite the fact that I didn't get a secret ending, 80 lost socks returned, which I actually had a darn good time trying to find. It's a sock joke, everyone, come on. Over 148,000 shiny objects collected, not including all the times I had to pay a clam to unlock a pathway. 17 hours of total playtime, with an additional 8 trying to get that final achievement. And 0 friends I'm going to expose to that multiplayer, because seriously, none of you deserve that.
There were a lot of things swinging in either direction regarding the quality of Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. The character animations look awesome, but a lot of the levels and environments almost look a little too Step 40 in their bright colors and unpolished polish, if you will. The humor and sound design are incredible, but the multiplayer mode easily is one of the worst things that I have played all year long. The best way that I can sum up this game in regards to the gameplay is this. It's fine. The game doesn't really play like anything special in my opinion, and while this may be the best SpongeBob game ever made, it is far from the best 3D platformer that I've ever played in my life. However, if you love this game, please listen to me when I say this. Please continue to love it. It's just not for me. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of play it.